So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Welcome to the best iPhones to buy, April 2022. This list will not change for me until after the iPhone 14 launch later in September. So this video should be pretty relevant up until then, and I might consider redoing this. And I also plan to do maybe a Galaxy version of this as well. So we're going to begin with the very first one, and that is, this is the best iPhone for those of you who love to consume media and stuff like that, the iPhone 13 Pro Max. If you're a power user, you love an amazing camera system, the iPhone 13 Pro Max is here for you. This phone right here is basically the king of iPhone. It has essentially every single feature every other iPhone has, but does a better battery life, does a bigger screen, and you just can't get better than this in an iPhone. And some people think you can't get better than this in any phone. This might be the best phone on the market in general for a lot of people. So that was a pretty obvious one. Let's talk about the next one. Now, the next iPhone is going to be the iPhone 13 Pro. You probably guessed this one. Now, this one is the best for those of you who don't want to compromise on a more portable screen. You want a screen that fits you a little bit better. You're not overly concerned with having the largest screen out there, but you don't want to sacrifice a premium feel. I find that when I use the 13 Pro or I use the 13 Pro Max in my reviews and whatever, and they feel like the same level of premium. I don't feel like I'm using something cheaper. I just feel like I'm using something smaller, but not small, if that makes sense. It feels just about right. I made a video the other day titled Why the iPhone 13 Pro is Perfect. And again, it's all about the balance. It's about being a bigger screen, but not being massive, and also feeling very premium. So long battery life, premium feel, no sacrifice on the camera. These are very close. Which to choose really comes down to just one thing mainly, and that is the size, and you could say a second thing, which would probably be the battery life. And the next iPhone, you're probably going to guess this one as well, but if you guess the 13, it is the iPhone 13. This is specifically the new green color that just came out, a little bit darker. Some people may dig it, some people may not dig it, but at the same time, this one right here, definitely the best iPhone for those of you who are looking for just the right size with the right price point, and you are a relative power user, but you're not like, you don't need all the greatest specs. You use your phone a lot day to day, but you don't care about having a 120 hertz. You just want a really good, fast working iPhone for your day-to-day use and a really good camera. You're going to be very happy here. It's basically 90% of what those phones are, with slightly less premium specs than those phones right there. A little bit less RAM, slightly smaller batteries, and you do have one less camera lens. But other than that, the iPhone 13 is giving you the majority of what a 13 Pro user would experience. I just don't personally like 60 hertz anymore, but that's because I'm into tech and into all the specs, and some of you might be as well. Some people just notice these things, but if you don't really care about that, the iPhone 13 is still butter. It's still a really good device and works in pretty much every area you would expect to work, and it works very well. So the next phone is going to be essentially another iPhone 13. It's the iPhone 13 mini for those in the niche section that do want something a little bit more small. So the whole iPhone 13 lineup gets on here, but the iPhone 13 mini for those of you who want a really like iPhone SE 2016 like design, size, stuff like that, but you want a more modern look on the screen. Again, the notch is more noticeable on this phone. However, at the same time, you're never going to find a phone on the market with these kind of specifications that also feels super easy to one hand like this. This is a portable beast right here. And essentially you have basically with the iPhone 13 lineup, every single type of phone. I really want to caution something about the 13 mini. They're not bringing this one back more than likely this year. So if you're looking for a 14 mini, it's not happening more than likely. So definitely pick up one of these now if you want a mini iPhone. This market is not the hottest seller, so I'm not sure if we're going to see that going forward. Best iPhone for those of you who want an entry level iPhone is the iPhone SE 2022. If you're like, I don't care about all this techie stuff, bro, I just like a classic iPhone with a home button. You know, they still got the SE for you right here, SE3 with the Apple A15 chipset. The camera is actually surprisingly not that much different from the iPhone 13 Pro. just because of all the, you know, extra software algorithm and thing like that that go on in the background of smart HDR. Having the, you know, the A15 allows the processing to be a little bit better. And I found that just on the regular pictures, it's not actually that much different from any of the current iPhones. So the SE, a pretty good value. If you want a single camera, you can live with not the greatest battery life, but you just need a decent day of battery life. You might not make it all the way, but you could if you know how to use an iPhone. Like you put on the low power mode, you basically lower the brightness a little bit. You're on the car charger, whatever. You'll probably make it a day. But you'll have to sacrifice this older design here, the, you know, home button 16:9 aspect ratio, swiping from the bottom for control center. Other than that, I gotta say, yes, he represents a great value for those people who do want the entry level of iPhone. And the next one is the best secondhand used iPhone, I think, or even if you want to pick it up new, a decent option is the iPhone 12. 5G performance on here, still 60 hertz. It's actually not much different from the iPhone 13. So if you are looking for the iPhone 12, if you find it used, you could probably get it under $500. So it's actually a pretty good bargain. Now, I'm having a hard time recommending iPhone 12 Pro Max and 12 Pro right now because they're a little bit higher just due to their more premium materials. And I just don't think it's worth it because you're going to be paying like $600, $700, $800. You might as well get a newer iPhone. But the iPhone 12 is quite a bit cheaper than most of the newer ones, except for the SE 2022, but there's a lot more on offer. You got the OLED display on here, 6.1 inch screen. This is like 90% of what the iPhone 13 is, without a couple things like cinematic modes not on board, stuff like that. And my last recommendation is the iPhone 11. For those of you who are like, I'm not dealing with the SE and I'm not paying for any of these newer iPhones, the 11 is a solid, decent option for those who can make those sacrifices. This phone still runs well. It still gets the latest software updates. It has 4K 60 on the rear and the front. It's pretty comfortable in the hand and it retains an LCD display. So this is basically the lineup of all the iPhones I recommend right now as of April 2022. Again, this list will change later in the year, but you can use this as a guide, and whatever section of these phones that I was discussing that you resonated with the most, that's likely the phone for you. You don't really need to even think about another phone. If you really find yourself resonating strongly with the points I made about each of these, that is more than likely the phone that will please you the most. When it comes to phones, you kind of got to follow your gut. You got to follow your intuition, because most of the time you kind of know what you want, but then you get distracted by something you don't want. For example, if you know you're the type of person who likes a smaller iPhone with a one-handed experience, but you're like distracted by, man, do I really need that bigger screen? I don't know, man. I really like the one hand. Just go with the one hand if that's what you feel like. If you're like, man, I will never use a small phone, but I like the mini. It does look intriguing to be one hand, but I know I just love consuming media on my phone. Get the Pro Max. You're not going to be happy with the mini. So follow that guide within. I definitely think it'll help you make the right decision. Anyway, any questions, comments, concerns? What do you need to know if you're having issues deciding, because there's so many options these days in iPhone land? Let us know down below, and I'll try to update this video later in the year, maybe like October, November, maybe right before the holidays, so we can get an idea of what the current landscape is in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the very next episode, and peace.